Welcome to the Becoming You show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now. I'm glad you're here with me in this conversation because it is one that I want every single person that I love, and that's you, to hear. This is the work that actually changes things, not the dramatic stuff, this stuff that looks relatively simple on the outside, but rearranges everything on the inside. So, okay, this is where we're at. Week 3 of the August series. So quick catch up if you're just landing here. There are 4 connected episodes this month, 1 word each, right? And the words build into a framework. Sometimes I give you the framework at the very beginning. I'm intentionally slowing down so that you can capture each word in its essence, right? So week 1 was raw. It's the unedited truth about your pain. Okay. Week 2 was authentic. Who you are underneath the story about who you are, right? And that's not a bunch of word jumble. I make a lot of sense of it. I think good sense of it. And so for those of you that have told me that you love that one, thank you. And then this week's word is necessary. Necessary. And in this conversation, we're talking about agency. And I'll tell you where we're going so you can hold me to it. Because by the end of this episode, I'm going to give you 1 question. And that question has 7 words. And I genuinely believe, and I know this is a strong statement, but from years of doing this work, that this question can hand you your life back. It can, and it has, and I've witnessed it and I have observed it. But first, we get to clear some things out of the way because agency might be one of the most misunderstood words in personal growth. I have a few, and you know what they are. This is one of them. And what people think it means, right, is exactly why that it gets pushed away. So I want to give you a heads up. The episode collects a lot of dots. It's going to bring back the story from week 1, the labels from week 2, and it's going to point where we're going next week. So if any of it feels like a lot, that's why. We're building, but just stay with me. So I want to start with a confession about my own audience, right? And you're part of that audience, but the audience that I wrote this book for, right? I wrote a book called No One is Coming to Save You, a whole book. And it's right there in the title. Long story short, producer didn't want that title, whatever. That's the title I wanted. That's the title I got. I still meet people every single week who are waiting, right? Waiting for the apology, waiting for circumstances to ease up, waiting for for the other person to finally change. Any day now, surely they're going to. Waiting for the market, waiting for the kids to get older, waiting for the summers not to go so fast, waiting for the schedule to come down, waiting for January, waiting for somebody to notice how hard it's been and come and make sense of it. And I want to say it. I get it. I've done it. And there are probably corners of my life where I'm doing it right now and I haven't caught it yet. Because that's the thing about waiting. It doesn't feel like waiting from the inside. From the inside, it feels very responsible. It feels patient. It feels humble even, right? Good people wait their turn, right? That's how so many of us were raised. But here's what I want to offer you today. And it might sting a little. Waiting feels like patience. It isn't. Okay? And here's how you can tell the difference. Patience is doing something while it waits, right? It's building, it's getting ready. So when that moment opens up, you're prepared for it. Waiting is just watching the door, sitting on your hands. So I really want you to ask yourself, what are you building while you wait? What are you building? And if you can't answer that, I say this with love, you might not be, you might not, you are might not being patient. Okay? You're just waiting. And what you're waiting for, right? And I want you to be honest with yourself, is you're waiting for something outside of you to hand your life back. And I am here to tell you that it's not coming. And that is the whole book, okay? And I've had this exact moment with so many clients, right? They come in with a situation that they've been sitting in for months, sometimes years, oh my gosh, sometimes decades, waiting for the spouse to change, waiting for the boss to notice, waiting for the market to turn, waiting for their body to cooperate. And I will say, so what have you done about it? And they'll pause and they'll say, well, I've just kind of been giving it time. And I'll say, giving what time? Because time doesn't do the thing. You do the thing. Time just passes. And time passing without you moving isn't patience either. It's not even neutral. It's just time that you don't get back. And that's when it usually lands, right? Because deep down, you know they know, right? They just needed to hear somebody say it out loud. Yeah, me too. Okay? So if we don't have that, what's the other option? Agency. Agency. But before I tell you what it is, okay, I have to be clear about what it isn't. Because there are four things, and I'm sure there's more, but as I was like working through my notes, there are about four things that when I think about agency, right, that people define it as, and then it gives them really great reason to kind of push the thing away. And so maybe that's you. It's for sure been me. So first, people think agency means control, right? They hear agency and they think it means that life, right, is supposed to cooperate now. Okay? And then life doesn't cooperate. Have you noticed? Yeah. Yeah, the economy is going to do what it does. And other people, yeah, they're going to keep being them. They're going to keep being other people, right? And the diagnosis comes anyway, right? And then what happens is they go, see, Leah, I tried taking charge of my life and it just didn't work. So agency must not be real. But agency, in the way that I define agency, never said, love, that the world would cooperate. Other people, not yours. The past, not yours. The weather, the algorithm, whether somebody likes you, what they decide to do, not yours, not yours, not yours, not yours. Right? Anybody who told you that agency means controlling outcomes, right, outside of you, set you up to quit, set you up to fail, right? Control, external control, is a game you cannot win. Agency is a different game. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Second, and I think this is a big one, people think that agency means blame, right? This is the real reason that most people push it away. They hear, take responsibility for your life, and what lands is, right, so many times, oh, so what happened to me is my fault, right? And everything in them says no, and then they shut the door. And honestly, probably good instinct, because that would kind of be a terrible deal. But I want you to hear me out on this one. What happened to you and what you do next, two different questions, right? Fault looks backward. It asks, who caused this? Responsibility looks forward. It asks, who's got it from here? And you can answer those two questions differently. You can be completely not at fault at all for what happened. Completely. And completely responsible for what happens next. Both at the same time. They don't cancel each other out. Right? I had a client once, right? And this was such a big moment for her. She'd been through something awful. Just, oh my gosh, so awful, right? Not her fault, not even a little. And she'd been stuck in it for years because taking any ownership of her recovery felt like letting the other person who hurt her off the hook. Like, if I move forward, I'm saying it was okay. And we spent an entire session on this exact distinction, right? Not at fault. Yes. Yes. True. And responsible from here. True. Right? It took her a minute. Okay. But when it landed, I mean, tears, tears. And she said, so I'm allowed? I'm allowed to move from here? It took her a minute, right? But when it landed, yes, yes. I said, yes, you're allowed to move. You always were. And that was the beginning of her actually rebuilding her life. Not because she agreed, right? The thing that was okay, but because she stopped waiting for permission to have a life again. She stopped waiting for someone to save her. Okay? And the second part is not a burden. It's the best news, right? Because it means that the person who hurt you doesn't get to continue to hurt you and doesn't get to write you the script for your future. I want you to think about the alternative. If my healing, if my future, if the capacity of me to build my life waits on somebody else, waits on their apology, waits for the very thing that happened to not have happened, right? If my peace requires them to change, I've made my peace depend on them. And well, I don't know, but a lot of times these stories don't necessarily, the people in these stories don't actually prove to be reliable. So why would we hand the person, right, who did the damage to the next chapter of our life, right? They had enough. They had enough paragraphs, maybe a whole chapter, maybe a whole book, maybe many books, maybe it's a whole series. Isn't it enough? Isn't it enough? The third one, right, is that people think that agency means hustle, right? Grip harder, grind more, push through. And I'm here to say effort matters for sure. I'll never tell you that effort doesn't matter. But working really hard inside the same story isn't agency. It's just effort. If the story running underneath is I have to prove that I'm enough, ask me how I know. Right? You can grind for 30 years and end up exhausted in the same place. The question isn't how hard you're running. It's who wrote the track you're running on. I meet so many high performers here. People who look from the outside like the opposite of stuck, right? They're accomplishing constantly, right? They've got the results. They've got the resume. They're the person that other people point to and say, wow, 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 they've really got it together. But when we get inside the whole engine, their entire fueling system is running on the same story that it's always run on. And more accomplishing doesn't change that story. Actually, sometimes it feeds it. Sometimes the more they do, the louder the not enough gets, right? And they can't rest because rest feels like admitting the story is wrong, right? And they can't afford for that story to be wrong because the story is what's been driving them. Agency isn't the answer for that, right? It isn't. Rewriting the story is the answer. Agency is what lets you do the rewriting, right? Hustle is often the exact thing that like rips the pen out of your hand, right? Because you're too busy, at least I was, running, proving, efforting to sit down and write. And lastly, people think agency means positivity, right? Put a smile on it, good vibes, right? Don't look at the hard thing because looking feels negative, right? That's not ownership. That's avoidance that just is just dressed up as pretty and positive, right? Real agency can look at the whole thing, the whole thing. The news, the numbers, the actual state of the marriage or the business or the health. They don't have to run. They can stay in the room with it, right? And you can't take ownership of something that you refuse to look at, right? If you can't say the true thing about where you are, you can't move from where you are, right? You can only move from a starting point that you are willing to see, right? And this one is very sneaky too, because positivity looks so much like health, right? It looks like resilience. It looks like having a great attitude. But underneath, if it's just covering up something that you refuse to face, right? It's not helpful. It's not helpful. It's denial every single time, right? You can't write. You can't author. You can't pick up the pen, right, and create that with which you refuse to acknowledge. So, what agency actually is, right? So, if it's not control, if it's not blame, if it's not hustle, and it's not positivity, then what is it? What is it? Maybe just quickly grasp it for yourself in your mind and just kind of see where we're at philosophically on this. Like, what, when I ask, if I were to ask you, if you were sitting across from me and I say, what does agency mean to you? What would you say? Because here's what I would say. Between what happens to you and what you do about it, there's a gap. And it's small. It's quiet a lot of times, but it's always there, right? Something happens, right? The email lands, the comment stings, the door closes, the client says no, the market crashes, right? And before your response, there's a space. Most people never notice it because their patterns jump the gap so fast. It feels like there's no gap at all, right? Something happens, they react. Something happens, they react. Something happens, they react, right? A whole life on autopilot that feels like fate, feels as if life is happening to you, okay? Agency is deciding to live in that gap on purpose. It is. Because here's a very casual truth underneath everything I teach, right? You don't author every event in your life. Nobody does. Thank goodness, honestly, what a job that would be, right? But you do author every meaning, every meaning. The event happens, and then in that gap, your mind decides what it means. He didn't call back. That's the event. What does it mean, right? What does it mean? Does it mean that I'm not worth calling back, right? That's one option. He's swamped. That's another. He's not my person and I just found out early. That's another. Same event, 3 meanings. And there are many, many more meanings, right? And those 3 meanings create 3 totally different feelings. And those feelings drive 3 totally different sets of actions and behaviors. And those actions and behaviors, well, they build 3 different lives. The event starts the sentence, right? Something happens, the event starts the sentence, the meaning, and the meaning finishes it. And you're the one finishing it. You have always been the one. Nobody took that from you. We just forgot that we're doing it. Or we were never told that it was ours to own. So I want to give you another one because I really want you to see this, okay? Let's just say your kid did bad on a test. Let's just say that's the event. What does it mean, right? There's 1,000 different meanings you could make based on your experience. None of them are right. None of them are wrong, okay? But maybe the meaning is that they're not applying themselves, right? That's one. Maybe they're overwhelmed and I need to check in. That's another. Maybe this class is just over their head and we need a new plan and a new start. That's another. I failed them somewhere, somehow. That's another. Right? Maybe the teacher isn't doing a very good job at explaining and describing the scenarios that are being tested. That's another. Each of those creates a different feeling, which drives a completely different conversation and ends up in a different place 3 months from now. Same event, right? The meaning that you give it has been assigned to you the whole time. And that's the whole switch. And I know you guys, I know you've heard me 100 times, if not more than that. We spend all this time in our life and almost no time working on our life. right? This is that. Living in your life is reacting to whatever happens. Working on your life is noticing the gap and choosing on purpose. That's it. That's the switch. So the honest question is, if this is available to all of us all the time, why do we keep handing it away? Why do we just keep giving it away? And the honest answer is agency is heavy. It's heavy. The minute you accept that you have it, waiting stops being an option, right? There's no more someday when they apologize, when they're bad. There's none of that. There's just you, beautiful, and the gap and the choice. And I have to be honest with you. Powerlessness, I think that's the word I want to use here. Powerlessness has perks. It does. It does. Blame, comfortable. Blame asks nothing of you, right? No decisions, no risk, no chance of failing, right? Because you've just given over the wheel, right? But it also builds nothing for you. Nothing. That's the trade. Comfort now, nothing later. And most people take the trade without ever looking at what it costs. So remember week 1, that rehearsed story? Here's where it connects. Because I told you these build on each other, right? A rehearsed story is one of the most common places agency goes to die. Because you cannot write the next chapter while you're still performing the last one. Something has to put the old script down first. Right? That's why raw came before necessary, before agency. That was very purposeful when I created this framework. So here's the question that I promised you. This week's word is necessary. And this question is how you find what's necessary. Everything swirling in your life right now. The noise, the unfairness, the shoulds. This question sorts all of it. Here's the question. What is mine to do here really? What is mine to do here really? That's it. What is mine to do here really? So let me tell you what it's not asking. It's not asking what would be fair. Fair's a great idea. It's not. It's just not a plan, right? And a lot of us are on hold waiting for fair to show up. You know what else it isn't? It's not asking what should have happened here, right? Should is arguing with something that already happened. You lose that argument every single time. It's also not asking whose fault it is. We've covered that. Just what is mine to do here really? And I want you to watch what happens the very first time you actually ask it, because something almost innate happens, right? Most of what you've been carrying doesn't survive the question, right? What is mine here to do? Here, really, right? A lot of times people are like, their opinion of you. Nope, not yours. The apology that may never come. Nope, not yours. Whether they change, whether it was fair, what will everybody think? Not yours, not yours, not yours. All that weight, right? Most of it, not yours. So then what's left is so small, right? Your attention, that's yours. Where you point it. Your interpretation, what you decide things mean, what your next action is. And here's really what I want you to hear. That little pile is enough. Every transformation I have ever watched in every client, in every company, in my own life started with that little pile and nothing else. Right? So I want to give you a real example of what asking this question can do, right? I had a client, business owner, incredibly frustrated with the partner situation, right? She came into a session hot, rightfully so, honestly. There were real things happening that in her mind were not fair. And I let her get all of that out, all of the way. And then I said, okay, what is yours to do here, really? And she got quiet and she said, honestly, I've been so busy proving that I'm right that I haven't asked what I actually want to do. Right? And within literally, you guys, 30 days, She made 3 moves that she'd been avoiding for an entire year. Not because the partner situation changed, but because she stopped waiting for the partner situation to change, right? That's what the question does. It doesn't fix the situation. It just hands you back you as an asset, as the solution, as somebody that is incredibly resourced. So here's where I want you to take home in this conversation, okay? I want you to pick a situation that you've been waiting the longest for, right? You already know which one it is. It came to mind when I was talking about the waiting, didn't it? Right? Maybe it's the apology that you're owed. Maybe it's the change that you were promised. Maybe it's the permission that you hope somebody grants to you. Maybe it's the economy. Maybe it's the president. I don't care, right? What is mine to do here, really? And write down whatever comes. It might be small, small is fine, okay? Maybe it's make the call. Maybe it's have the conversation. Maybe it's update the resume. Maybe it's book the, I don't care what it is. Maybe it's just to forgive them without the apology. Maybe it's just to let go for the first time ever of something that you have known that you have no control over. And for whatever reason, control seems entirely necessary in your mind, okay? Because you're done paying for it. Not because they earned it. Because you're done paying for it. And then I want you to do one piece of it, whatever you wrote down, in the next 48 hours. Because intention expires faster than we think. If it doesn't get scheduled, it becomes someday. And I'm not interested in a someday life for you. I'm interested in a nowday life for you. Okay? Okay, so one more thing before you go. And I'm asking because it's a simple, it's simple to do, but living it is a practice. Right? Your brain is going to try really hard to hand the pen right back to the circumstances, to the situation, to the other person the first chance it gets. It's just what brains do. They want to go back to the familiar, and for most of us, the familiar is the waiting, right? So you have to keep asking, right? You have to build the muscle of catching yourself, waiting and stepping back into the question. And that takes reps. And that is where we do the reps in Innerboard. So if you're not in the lab, it's my membership, and it's where this work actually gets done, right? You come in, you bring the situation that you've been waiting on, and you get coached on it. Real feedback, real direction in a room full of people that are done waiting too. We spend all of this time, as I mentioned earlier, in our life and almost none working on it. Inner Lab is where you work on it, right? And we're in these 4 words all month long. So I want you to bring in the very thing that you have been waiting on, that you think patiently on, but that is suffocating you and keeping you stuck, and maybe you don't even realize it. So that's my offer. That's my invitation. Join us in the lab. It might just be the very best thing that you do, and I can say that because that is what the members are saying, okay? Next week is the finale, and it all comes together. We're talking about vulnerability, what it costs, why most of us get it wrong. It's like agency. We define it wrong, and then therefore we put guardrails around a definition that isn't even a definition that we can have any sort of ownership in, right? And then I'm going to put all the 4 weeks together into a framework, and I'm going to deliver it to you next week. So I hope that you will join us in it. Until then, have a most beautiful, awesome day, and I will see you in the next show. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And then share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.